waves rolling in. Sand is surfing, let the truth begin.
Diving deep where others fear to go. Promago fire, putting on a show. Sammy's dancing left and right, he spins. Aloha spirit, that's where it begins.
Hey, hey, Santa, ride that silver wave. Sammy grooving, nothing left to say. Banks are shaking, squeezes feeling tight. First lady shining in a silver dress bright.
Trumps returning, victory inside. Beach broadcast booming every day and night. Aloha joy,
Hold that dream so high.
Aloha, this is Santa Surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today, I'm recording this on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, the evening of Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Thanks so much for joining us on Locals. We had a great live today. And then all of our shows can be seen on YouTube. And then the following day, it will be seen on Rumble. The following morning is seen on Rumble. Oh my goodness, how many of you are sleep deprived? I'm hearing from tons of surfers and add-ons. You just can't sleep because either something is coming up or there's just so much going on and you don't want to miss out on anything. The fear of missing out, which is also known as FOMO. Well, hopefully we can all eventually get some sleep. There's a lot of things going on, so I'm going to cover that in today's podcast. Well, President Trump did it again. His comms that he's been sending to us, he's been communicating to us. He gives his speeches, he gives his announcements. If you're new to the MAGA movement, new to the Anon movement, what he does is he sends us messages during his announcements or speeches or whenever he's having a talk or a presser. So the title is Trump Comms or Q Proofs Too Late. He's mentioned too late again. And Clinton's perjury has consequences. So the Clintons had their depositions last week. The depositions were actually dropped yesterday. And well, I will say this. Thank you for anybody who listened to any part of these depositions. That's 4.5 hours of your life that you can never have back. But some people were interested, but Hillary did kind of lose it. I'm just going to play a portion of this. It's a 7-minute clip. If you want to see it, you can go to the article link and see it. But she did get a little unhinged. Check this out.
Information. Okay. I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nita Lowy. Information. Okay. I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nita Lowy.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm
can
done
occur?
with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was,
It doesn't
Excuse
matter.
me.
We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well,
I would like to take a break at this moment.
yeah,
and I'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
Ask the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're gonna yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at
time
me.
doing.
On 9/11.
President Clinton was impeached on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, which directly related to his extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, correct?
I didn't understand what you said.
Your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, his sexual behavior.
He was impeached for several reasons, and then was acquitted in the Senate.
And your husband flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times, correct?
He made several trips with different legs on the trip, as I recall.
But he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane
Yes, he
17 to
did.
26 times? Were you aware that Secret Service was dropped on some of those flights?
That is not my understanding.
Where they were not on some of those flights?
That is not my
So
understanding.
your understanding is that Secret Service was on all of the flights that President Clinton was on?
That is
with
my
Epstein?
understanding.
2017 speeches and interviews, you described Pizzagate as a baseless conspiracy theory, alleging you and others ran a child sex trafficking ring from a Washington pizzeria basement. Have you reviewed any 2025-2026 Epstein files that were released that you believe reference or relate to those specific 2016 claims regarding the Podesta emails, Comet Ping Pong, pizza used as code possibly?
I'm sorry, does
You're
this
asking
relate?
her about whether
Excuse me.
she's reviewed emails in
In
the
the
Epstein
Epstein files.
files, which relate to the wacky Pizzagate
You
scandal.
could characterize it however you want. I just would like to know if she's familiar with any of them.
So
She's
excuse me,
commenting.
your question is about whether or not she has reviewed any emails in the Epstein release files about Pizzagate.
Correct.
Pizzagate was totally made up. It was an outrageous allegation
that ended up hurting a number of people, that caused a deranged young man to show up with his assault rifle and shoot up a local pizzeria. I can't believe you're even referencing it. You should be.
There are connections to the language.
Well,
I'm
the
not talking
QAnon
about-
people believe there are, so
I don't know what QAnon
have at it.
This is the typical Hillary Clinton completely diverting from a question and just going off into a different direction, never answering. She never addressed Pizzagate question, and she never addressed did Bill Clinton perjure himself. This is just very typical of the Clintons. She had no care in the world for the children at all. She's just arrogant, smug. Ugh. So anyway, there's a few clips of Bill Clinton. He perjured himself, and that comes with a loss of immunity. Former presidents do not enjoy absolute immunity. This is where you can actually see a Trump case that was argued in the courts, brought to the Supreme Court, and they're used now as to President Trump and America First advantage. The Supreme Court's 2024 decision on Trump versus the United States established a framework for presidential immunity, but explicitly does not extend to post-presidency conduct. The court ruled that former presidents are entitled to absolute immunity only for their actions within the core constitutional powers while in office, such as pardoning, removing executive officers, discussing investigations with the Justice Department. However, perjury committed after leaving office is not part of those core powers and falls outside of the scope of immunity, aka Bill Clinton will have he perjured himself. There was a clip where he was asked about a particular situation with a female, and he was fawning, he was just gawking over the photo, but never answered the question and absolutely denied it, actually. And so he's perjuring himself, but again, the Congress knew the answers before the Clintons could even answer. So they were just kind of catching them in traps. But anyway, so with Bill Clinton doing that, he perjured himself. So therefore, the immunity is out the window. Okay, so enough about that. Ugh, yeah. Okay, and then remember yesterday's podcast where President Trump was hinting March 15th comms, and one of them was dead cat bounce? Well, guess what? He was right, and that was one of the proofs that he had. Before I get to that, I wanted to go ahead and talk about my sponsor. It's Meta 247 now, and they provide ivermectin. Ivermectin are 12 milligram pills. They are as low as $1.75 a pill. There are other packages that are lower than that, but again, they're 12 milligram pills. This company also now provides fenbendazole. So contact Meta 247. Go to Meta 247 now, or you can go to calling them by 888-749-0261. And with any order of ivermectin, they are offering 20 additional pills for free. Okay, so going back to the comms, Trump knew, we knew this had to happen. We knew the markets had to crash, right? Trump called out Congress for their insider trading. He warned via comms during the Iran airstrike announcements about dead cat bounce. I'm going to show that in a moment. But dead cat bounce, it's a financial term describing a temporary, short-lived recovery in the price of a declining asset, such as a stock, commodity, or index. What happened today? We had Dow Jones was down almost 400 points. We had NASDAQ that was down almost 200 points, and we had S&P that was down almost 60 points. In the Locals Live show we had today, we actually talked about the different economies around the world and for why things like this have to happen. But okay, so the random few in Congress made trades that beat the market. Remember, President Trump, he also called out Congress making insider trades, and it's on both sides of the aisle. This isn't a Republican or a Democrat thing, it's both sides of the aisle. So with the market being down today, guess who beat the market today? I know it's only a one-day situation, but this is just an example of the stuff that we've been putting up with. This representative, Republican actually, Virginia Fox, she had on February 12th, she bought ARLP, Alliance Resource Partners, and she bought some stock. Well, what's interesting is that stock was up today. Why is that stock up today and all the others were down in the red? Okay, so that's just one of many examples that we may be seeing over the next few days or weeks. And why it's a dead cat bounce, it's because President Trump, he has committed many of those Trump accounts for the babies. So he's committed that for the stock market. You know, he's got things, he's a builder. By nature, he's a builder. He buys a piece of land. He may not like the building on it. He implodes the building and rebuilds from scratch, and it becomes luxurious and better than it was before. I consider that the nations that he's taking over, the economies are crashing, and then he rebuilds it. And what happens to their currencies and all of that? We talked about that in our show. I'll probably do a podcast on that later this week. Okay, so are market manipulators getting exposed as well with the market crashing and Trump giving us that hint? When Treasury is eliminating or terminating its collective bargaining agreement with unionized workers at the IRS, that creates some chaos. This was something that was announced the day before the Iranian strike happened. The first strike happened, Epic Fury. But this is the article where the Treasury Department has terminated its collective bargaining agreement. And then down here, Grok says the union are for those for IRS workers. And they terminated their agreement on Friday, and it's citing a 2025 executive order on federal workforce policy. Gee, President Trump didn't make a big announcement on that, did he? But that union consists of 150,000 Treasury employees or IRS employees. So here's the calm. He hinted 2 weeks. He had hinted it and again, he just put out, they could have done it 2 weeks ago, but again, he's giving us messages, and it led to March 15th, because this speech was on March 1st, which leads to one delta that says dead cat bounce. I'll show it to you right now.
They could have done something 2 weeks.
Okay, so President Trump, when he said that, the full sentence was, they could have done something 2 weeks ago, but he was giving us signs. 2 weeks ago would put it at March 15th. He was talking, and in this particular post, there were several different hints, but this one here was dead cat bounce. What happened to the markets today? The markets crashed, right? The NASDAQ was down. All of them, all indices were down today. Dead cat bounce is also a financial term in describing a temporary, short-lived recovery in the price of a declining asset. Now, State of the Union was last Tuesday. He called out Congress he wanted them to stop insider trading. This is just a typical example. Again, remember, all indices were down today. Virginia Fox, she's a Republican. She made a trade on, again, so this is not a left or a right issue. This is they gotta do the right thing issue. She made a trade. She had placed a buy order on this stock, ARLP, on the 12th of February. Well, guess what happened to that stock today? It was one of the few stocks that were up today, 11%. What kind of information did she have, right? Again, could it be that she was involved? She was exposed to some kind of inside information that gave her this kind of increase when everything else was declining. We know President Trump is going to make sure that all of the stocks are going to surge because he has Trump accounts associated with that, which are those baby accounts. He's got Trump accounts associated with that. So he does not. He's showing something, but does the economy need to crumble in different places around the world in order for it to start building and building stronger than ever before? So remember, the IRS, the bargaining agreement here, Treasury Department has terminated the collective bargaining agreement with the IRS. and Grok even confirms that as well. So that was terminated on Thursday, the day before the Iranian strikes. So until President Trump or Scott Bessent or somebody from his administration makes a formal announcement that the IRS is bye-bye, gone, that we still have one. So for those of you that might be sending out replies or messages saying, what do I have to do with my tax bill? I'm not giving you any financial advice. I'm just sharing that I'm going to wait for President Trump to actually come out with something. But are we beginning to see the new things, how everything is lining up, preparing for the new system? This scares them, guys. The new system scares the bad people, the money launderers, the old banking system. It scares them because they're only used to using that system to steal from people like you and me, the taxpayers, the American people. They are used to stealing from us to provide for them, to help organizations that lines their pockets, especially during this election year. I'm telling you, they're losing their stranglehold. And then also AMC for All posted this. The federal ACH issue this morning is that millions in missing deposits. They're working on the backlog now, and the money should arrive in the accounts later. So Federal Reserve having a glitch, and also those 12 Board of Governor Federal Reserve presidents, they began their term 2 days ago. And then we know Jerome Powell's on his way out. Too late. I got a little hint on too late as well, because President Trump. But now that we're watching the demise of the Democrat Party, I look at Pappy Trumpo posts, and I have for a while, because even though they're, I always do actually, but even though they're humorous, there's a strong message with each one of his posts, like this one.
Assalamu alaikum, bitches. This is your new Supreme Leader speaking. Well, I warned Ali this would happen, and he just kept talking trash like we couldn't Maduro his old ass. Anyway, enjoy your new freedom, people. We're going to have bikini parties, all-you-can-eat buffets, dancing to country music, and singing karaoke all night long. We're going to have the best fiestas with delicious margaritas and sexy mamacitas. If you're a woman, you can finally take off that ridiculous bedsheet these idiots made you wear. You're free to be smart and beautiful and to wear whatever you want. Under my regime, you can now vote, as long as you vote Republican. If you think about it, you can only vote Republican because there will be no Democrat Party here. Everything they touch, believe me.
Okay. So he's he's being very open about the new life, especially for the women in Iran, and how they have their freedom to be women, not to cover their beauty, their physical attribute beauty. It was also hard to see their facial expressions because the beauty comes in their eyes, their smiles, their gestures, right? Not to have that covered anymore, not to cover who they are, who God created. But this is the part that was really big. You can vote Republican because there will not be a Democrat Party anymore. Remember, the Save America Act, President Trump has already hinted that he will pass that no matter what. So it's going to get passed, whether it's through the Senate or because it already passed the House, but it has to go through the Senate, whether it gets through the Senate or whether it gets through an executive order or however he's going to do it. But it is going to happen. So again, the Democratic Party, they're losing their stranglehold on everything. Their voter rolls are getting purged. Their voters are getting deported. They have no more big donors, no cabal money, no side business, no insider trading to fund their campaigns. They are in deep trouble. Then President Trump, through Il Donato, Pappy Trumpo account, he posted this about Keir Starmer. This one was also very big too.
Well, we didn't have anything to do with these attacks on Iran, okay? We are still a proud Muslim country. Our crazy, violent Muslim immigrants, including our precious criminals and rape gangs, are the bedrock of our society. So to all my crazy Pakis, please don't protest against my government. If you see a kitchen knife, use it to make some lamb kebabs at home and not to go out to the streets to murder us with it. Oh, and thank you for your votes. That's why we let you in.
So President Trump is not only just going after Keir Starmer, he's sending a huge message allowing the Muslim migrants to go into their country, into the UK and all the other Commonwealth countries, allowing them to go in there to completely take away the culture, the rights of the citizens that live in those nations, especially in the UK. President Trump, he gave us a lot of hints about the UK. At the White House today on March 3rd, 2026, this is what one of the many clips he said, talked about. Check this out.
Two things. The attack that we did, known as Midnight Hammer, had we not done that, Iran would have had a very powerful nuclear weapon within 1 month. We did it. It was great timing, but, and you've been able to see that too. The other thing was Barack Hussein Obama made maybe the worst deal I've ever seen, because he gave all power in the Middle East to Iran. He went the exact opposite way, and I terminated that. If I didn't terminate that deal, they would be sitting with a massive nuclear weapon 3 years ago, which would have been used already on Israel at least, and other countries also. And we wouldn't be talking about it right now. But if I didn't terminate the deal that Obama made, giving them everything, including plane loads of cash. Do you remember the airplane flew over there? It was a Boeing 757. It was 2 of them, loaded. They took out all the seats. It was loaded with green cash. So much cash that it was in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. They got all the cash from all the banks. They put it, and they flew it to Iran. I never knew a president had that power. I'm going to maybe try it sometime if it's okay. I think I'm going to do it. I'll fly it somewhere. Nobody's ever seen.
Okay, so we've been talking about all roads lead to Obama, and boy, oh boy, did President Trump, he actually went there on this one. I did not know that Obama gave Iran that much power. All the power in the Middle East, that's significant power. Then he talked about 3 years. Okay, so when he said 3 years ago, to me, it was Q3. I'll get to these in a bigger, I'll share it a little bit more in detail, but for right now, it was about the uranium scandal. That's what this one here is talking about, 2 people involved with the uranium scandal. And then it's also, why is the National Guard called upon 12 cities? Don't we have that going on right now? Trust in your president. God bless patriots. God bless patriots. So that was the next comm he gave. So he's talking about that. And then he was talking about the Boeing 757, Q757. So we listened to this. Q757, he's warning about EU and warning about the UK IMM chatter. Again, it's a Q Delta. This even says Q Delta. And what did President Trump do? He ripped into the UK and Keir Starmer today in the White House. And then he ripped into Spain to the point where he was even talking about Spain not paying their 2%. That he said Spain's been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. He's not happy with the UK. He's not happy with Spain. But what he did say about Spain is that Spain could threaten not using the bases. And he goes, I can do whatever I want. So again, he is letting the world know he is in full control of the world. President Trump, he truthed this today. Their air defense, Air Force, Navy, and leadership is gone. I want to talk. They want to talk. I said too late. It kept bugging me because he keeps throwing too late for Jerome Powell and now too late. He was sending us a message, guys. So when I pulled up a Gematria decode, I came up with these 3 numbers. It always has 3 numbers. Well, Q88 is the 10 days and darkness post. So it's 10 days, darkness, scare tactics, MSM, D's failing, again, Democrats failing, and then it ends with military operations in U.S., Snow White, Great Awakening, Godfather 3, Q. The other 2 numbers was 528 and 326. 528 is you and your families are safe, promise, Q. And then Q326, false flags, POTUS 100% insulated, expect fireworks, justice, Q. That's what too late has meant. In my opinion, you have to decide on this on your own, but it's just like too late, Jerome Powell, too late. I don't get this. I just don't understand. And finally it was like, oh, wait, maybe I should do this. That's what this makes total sense with everything that's going on in the world. But this one was the biggie because the news is going to start fabricating, embellishing. They'll start they'll start spreading stuff that's not accurate. They'll take things out of context, making it sound like you are not safe. And Q is giving us assurances that you and your families are safe. Begs the question, what's next? Eric Doherty again posted, the Florida CFO says anyone who tries attacking or killing Florida law enforcement can expect to be dead. This applies to Iranian-linked or Muslim terrorists. Expect to be put in the dirt. It's simple as that. And law enforcement does not stand for any of that. Makes me wonder, because a lot of people from Cuba, they fled legally to Florida. Is Cuba next? Is Cuba next to get rescued? Remember, Florida has also, I don't know if it's the entire state or certain counties, have also enforced that any protesters out on the streets that any drivers trying to get to work or something like that, that the drivers will have the right of way. So this right here is telling me they're getting something ready. They're getting prepared for something big. If there's riots on the streets in Iran because of the old regime, and it's the old regime people that are out there in the streets, if Cuba has the same thing happen, what do you think is going to happen when they really truly expose Obama for all the crimes that he did? I mean, even the liberals are waking up to Obama, and they don't want to hear that. So what do you think, though? There's going to be some of the TDS liberals. They're the ones that are going to be out there going, oh, my God. So in January, Tom Homan already talked about the database of people attacking ICE. Plans to broadcast their names publicly, but they've been building this database of ICE. You know how they're using those apps? Well, those apps are all of a sudden uncovering, and it was identifying who's using the apps, the email addresses, the phone numbers, the real names. That's what's going to happen. And he wants to go ahead and use that, broadcast their names and their faces publicly. So all the comms to be prepared for is the extreme efforts to kill login devices, to censor, extreme efforts. Dead cat bounce, that happened today. How long is that going to last? Enjoy the show. Bring the rain. Q. The next one is Open Your Eyes. It finally came out about Bob and Rod Rosenstein, Bob Mueller, were key players in the uranium scandal. With Iran, the uranium scandal is going to start coming out. Don't you think POTUS would be tweeting about removal given clear conflict? Why did POTUS meet with Bob undercover? The cover of the FBI director interview, and then it talks about Huma. POTUS has everything. And this was back in 2017. So President Trump, he's already had everything. And then he talks about not just about Republicans or Democrats at this stage. Where is Hillary? Well, wasn't she just at the deposition? And then this one's interesting. Why is the National Guard called across 12 cities? Isn't that where they are right now? National Guard, 12 cities. Trust your president. God bless patriots. That was Q3. The other one is what I just went through earlier, 10 days, that Q88, 10 days. The darkness, again, darkness for who, darkness how, not necessarily like lights out, but is it going to be darkness about something else? Saudi Arabia, US, Asia, Europe, all right. So Dems falling and then going back down here. Why is this relevant? Military operations, operators in the US, and then a false flags. So there might be more false flags. What happened in Austin? And how many other false flags? President Trump already announced that there will be casualties. POTUS 100% insulated. Expect fireworks, Justice Q. And then you and your families are safe. So upcoming, what's coming up? We still have the war on fraud in Minnesota. Ilhan is very upset about that. Market manipulation, all of that's going to start getting exposed. I haven't even talked about Jane Street. Iran strikes reveals true allies and enemies. All right. So it's going to be really finding out who our real allies are and who our true enemies are. Remember, President Trump says he hasn't even basically dropped the bomb on Iran. So the reveals on Iran, all roads lead to Obama. He started going after Obama today. You go on Facebook, and that's all about Iran and Obama, and supplying cash and uranium and all of that. Save America Act is in play. Crypto bill, the Clarity Act is to pass, which would be XRP would be used throughout the world. Japan announced use of the Ripple system XRP today, stabilizing currencies and economies, and a lot more. This is how Trump card works. President Trump through Eldonado says, the whole world texting us to take out their leaders now. I know it's a joke, but to me, it's a cue drop. That's how the Trump card works. He showed the world how he's saving their tyrannical dictatorship governments, especially the two, North Korea and Iran, that had nuclear weapons, how he's saved the people in those nations, and what is he going to do for other nations. That's the big trump card that's in play. Getting to our path of glory and where we're going to be celebrating with God right there by our side and just celebrating is going to be a rough process, guys. We know it's going to get bumpy. We know it's going to get probably very ugly. We don't know what President Trump's got up his sleeve and what he's got planned for tomorrow, but please be alert, be safe, stay frosty, and help thy neighbor if you can. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. Just always have your faith in God. He's got you in his hands. Just all he asks is for you to ask. Have a beautiful evening, day, afternoon, and I will have a show very soon. Aloha.